We are live. I am here with the lovely Melissa Bird, and people are going to start trickling in, and we'll listen either live or we'll listen later when I send out the full recording. But I am Kate Powell with so-called Kate for the People across a couple of different platforms, and this is the Candidates of Our Dreams series. We have a Congress that is very undreamy right now, and we are going to change that starting this year. And so Melissa is joining us today to talk about her campaign and what she is hoping to accomplish with it. But before we get started, just a quick reminder to everybody who will be listening now or will be tuning in later that this is homework time. So this is not the time for, just listening and being entertained, though I'm sure will be very entertaining along the way. But we also want to make sure that we engage in action items with our candidate. I also, as I say at the beginning of each one, this is not a purity test. We're going to be going through the various bullets of what progressive policy looks like, but there's also a lot of variation that can happen within each bullet. And there are also ways to accomplish the same thing, sometimes with other actions and ideas. And what we are looking for from our candidate is an ability to disagree or agree, but also to think bigger and all this kind of thing. And I'm pretty sure Melissa is going to fit the bill. Great.
Yeah.
So along those lines, Melissa, you're in OR-04, if I'm not mistaken.
I am indeed. Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Melissa Bird. I live in Corvallis, Oregon, and I am running for Congress in the Democratic primary in Congressional District 4. And the district, just so everybody is very clear, starts at the border of California and Oregon. It's half of Douglas County, Curry County, Coos County, Lane County, Lincoln County, and Benton County. So it goes almost up the whole entire coast. So it's a very big district. And I'm running in the Democratic primary that is coming up on May 19th. So it's right around the corner.
I was going to say, it really is. At this point, do you when are deadlines for getting into the primary?
Oh, yeah. So the deadlines I do want to talk about are about voting deadlines, really.
Right.
So people have to be on the ballot by the first week of March.
Okay.
But what I really want voters to know is that because it is a closed Democratic primary, you have to be a registered Democrat in order to vote for me in the primary election. Ballots hit the end of April. And as many people in Oregon know, we are a motor voter state. So all of our ballots get mailed to our house. So if you want to register as a Democrat to vote in the closed Democratic primary, you have to be registered to vote as a Democrat by probably April 1st.
Okay, so April Fool's Day. This is not a prank.
Not a joke.
Not a joke, not a prank. If you want to be in the primary, rather than just the general, you're going to have to be registered with a party. So thank you for explaining that, because every state does it a little bit differently. I'm in open primaries, but you have to pick one state. And so, yeah, it's very fun to figure out everybody's rules. So Melissa, how many people are in your race at this point?
It's 3 or 4 depending on where you're looking. So if you're looking on the state Secretary of State's website, there's 3 of us registered last time we checked. If you look at the Ballotopedia website, there's 3 of us, but 2 of the people are different. So, who knows how many people are running in the primary?
Right. You're like, I guess I'll find out.
Very consistently, I am there.
Right. You're like, I will get my ballot and I know I'm on it, and then we'll see who else is on it. Incredible. So thank you for explaining that. This is the part of the interview where I ask, why is OR-04 worth the campaigning? Because it is hard work. This is not a glamorous job. I assume that you are not backed by some wealthy donor who is just bankrolling all this now. Okay, just checking. So if that's not the case, then why are you doing this, Dr. Bird?
Well, there's a couple of reasons. This is a grassroots campaign. I'm not taking corporate or APAC money, unlike our incumbent. And so I am very much doing this one person at a time, one county, and sometimes one town at a time. The reason that I'm running for there's a couple of reasons. The biggest reason is that I was listening to the incumbent during the 2024 election talk about housing and veterans. And some of the things that she was saying were not accurate about housing and veterans. And I'm married to a disabled veteran. And they were telephone town halls, and I was screaming in my phone. No one can hear me but my kids. And I was screaming, that's not how this works. And I just thought to myself, someone should really run against her.
Right.
And then, long story short, a couple weeks later, all of a sudden I was running against her.
It's always that
Uh,
someone needs to do this,
yeah,
and then you look
like
in the
all of
mirror
a
and you
sudden I
realize
started having conversations with people and but I will say the other big reason that I'm running, like the real big reason that I'm running is because I think we need people in Congress who know what it's like to raise a family in this economy. I have a master's degree and a PhD in social work, and so I understand what is happening in our communities, particularly as fascism is on the rise. I know how our family has been impacted, but I also understand how other families are being impacted. And this is the way I've decided to do something. I've always wanted to run for office. I never have before. I've been asked several times to run for office. It was never the right time. And now is definitely the right time.
That's incredible. First of all, I love social workers. So thank you to your husband for his service, and thank you to you for your service as a social worker,
Thank-
which because I consider it a public service. And I run nonprofits for a living. That's my gig, and I'm in a human services slash arts hybrid right now.
Mhm.
And the day that I hired a social worker to direct my programming was the day that everything changed.
Yep.
And your profession is so needed. And I think it sets you up very well for politics, to be honest. I talk a lot in my other content about harm reduction, about tiny microcosmic steps of progress. And social workers are built for that because that's your whole life, right? Like you don't
Right.
get big wins. It's not like you walk out of court or you walk out of a benefits meeting or whatever and the skies opened up and everything was sometimes that might happen, but it's not it's usually like thank God we're one step closer to, whatever.
Well,
And
and I started my career in social work I was a preschool teacher, and then I also did advocacy for kids in foster care.
yeah.
And then I ended up in the political world. So my social work education pushed me into the world of advocacy and policy. And so I have worked in policy and advocacy for almost 30 years. So the best part about being a social worker is that, and I've taught social justice advocacy and policy to MSW students. So the best part of my work is that not only did I understand what was happening at the court level or with kids who were experiencing trauma, but I actually took that and started advocating. I'm actually the former lobbyist for Planned Parenthood of Utah. So
Incredible. Okay, so
Mhm.
as a foster parent, again, thank you for your service. And yeah, you are definitely one of the candidates of our dreams for sure. As far as like you're gonna have that dog in you, and that's gonna be necessary when it comes to going to Capitol Hill and fighting for what we need.
Yeah.
So along those lines, as I referenced earlier, this is the Candidate of Our Dreams series, which means we are going through the Candidates of Our Dreams checklist. So we're gonna go one by one. Melissa, this is open like to how you want to answer
Mhm.
everything as per usual. But according to me, some girl on the internet, number one, the candidate of our dreams takes $0 in corporate campaign money, which you've already sort of referenced. So I'd love to learn more.
Yeah, I mean, from the very beginning, this campaign has been built on my friends and my family and people in the community. So we are fundraising. I mean, I've spent a lot of time on the phone talking to literally thousands of people asking for money, um, and DMing. Sorry, everybody. I apologize for my DMs. Not really. I don't, because I have been in politics long enough to understand that um, the unfortunate thing is that money is in politics, and either we're going to play checkers or we're going to play chess, and I'm more interested in playing chess. And so, the long game to get people like me elected to office and all these other candidates of our dreams is that we have to put our money where our mouth is. And if we want more inspiring people leading this country and leading our states and our counties and our cities, then when those people show up, we have to be willing to help those people. And it doesn't take a lot of money. It takes 5 or 10 bucks. And I think that if the more people, I mean, I'll take the $3,500 donor, don't get me wrong, but I really want people to understand that it really only takes a $5 to $10 contribution consistently to make that happen. And so I will never take money from corporations ever, and I will not take APAC money.
Amazing. Thank you so much for expounding on that. And yeah, I'm going to harp on this later too, everybody. But we are definitely going to put the links to the donation page for Melissa's campaign in the write up of this recording. And so please, if you, especially if you are in a situation where you're like, my district's good, I've got a rep that I'm happy with, and I don't feel like there's anything for me to do. No, that's not true. Donating and other kinds of volunteerism, which we'll get into later. But please get involved if you want these independent candidates. They have to be grassroots supported. That's just the way it is.
Mhm.
Not independent candidates. If we want these progressive candidates who
Yeah.
are sometimes independent, sometimes not. Okay, number two, term limits themselves and advances term limit legislation.
I have already signed a pledge to term limits. So that was actually the very first one of the very first emails I got when we opened our campaign committee
Mhm.
was a pledge to term limits. So I signed it immediately. Um I do not think we need people in office for 20 or 30 or 40 or 50 years. I think that we need people with innovative ideas that come from all walks of life. And I think that because we don't have term limits, we don't have new and fresh perspectives coming into Congress. One of the one of the pieces of research we did was there was an article in the Atlantic that looked at Congress over a 10-year time period, like
Mhm.
738 Senate and House members in Congress, and only 13 of those people had ever been from the working class or experienced poverty. And I think that is partly because of term limits. And so we need to stop perpetuating. This is literally the House of Representatives meant to represent the people. And I'm I am a working mom, you know, who is doing my best to help advocate for our community. And so if we want more people like me in Congress, then we have to term the people. I don't want to do this forever.
Right, I know. That's what I think, like, people have asked if I'm running, and I'm like, "Well, it's not happening right now, obviously." When I think about it, I'm like, 6,
Mhm.
8,
Yeah.
maybe 10 if we're, like, doing really well, but then I
Yeah.
got other things to do, and would be your life, right? So, what do you think is your ideal, like, limit? I know that I think you're referring to the US term limits pledge, like the
Yeah.
organization.
Yeah, and I think, like, 6 to 8 years makes perfect sense to me, and
Mhm.
also, as part of that, if we're committed to term limits, we also have to be committed to mentoring other leaders in the community to help them also see, the joy and the wisdom in serving in public office. People are always like, "Oh my god, it must be so awful," and I'm like, "I'm having a great time. I love this. I love campaigning, I love meeting people, I love hearing people's stories, I love connecting with voters in places in the district who have never had a congressperson talk to them. And so I really feel like if we are going to commit to term limits, then we also have to commit to building the bridge so that other people can come in after us who are ready and willing and able to serve. And so that's how we're going to really diversify the amount of people who are serving in public office. And I think it's really important for us to be able to identify leadership across the board because it doesn't just come from the professional politician. I don't know where we bought into the myth that
No.
a professional politician is what we need, but I don't think we do.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. Awesome. Thank you for sharing kind of like your platform on that. Number 3, reasserts their power over the Supreme Court.
Mm. The Supreme Court.
We love him.
Oh, the
They're so
Supreme
supreme.
Court. Mm.
There's a few members on there who are pretty.
You know I think what's really interesting about reasserting power over the Supreme Court is one of the things, and I learned this working for Planned Parenthood, right? Like, it's
Mm,
not just about the Supreme Court. We have to really pay attention to who is being nominated to the federal bench and who is serving in the state Supreme Courts.
mhm,
And I think it's really important for us to remember that it's not just about reasserting power over the Supreme Court, which is very important. It's also about remembering that the Supreme Court is only this way in its current iteration because that's just what people decided it should be. But that's not actually how, when they created the Supreme Court as its own, when they created the judicial branch as its own branch of government, it was never a hard and fast rule that the Supreme Court look the way it does. So it's not just about reasserting our authority over the Supreme Court. It's also about really paying attention to state Supreme Courts, federal benches, and also how can we explore having the Supreme Court um, change to adapt to the year 2026 and
Mhm.
beyond instead of the iteration we have of it now. And so I think it's not just about affirming Congress's power over the Supreme Court, but I think it's also about making sure that we're paying attention to how other courts are getting filled and also remembering that the current iteration is not necessarily a hard and fast rule and things can be changed.
What are some changes that you would make if, they'll give you the magic wand question, "Here's your magic
Mhm.
wand."
Well,
Um
I do think having more members on the Supreme Court would be
Mhm.
helpful.
Yes.
I think that part of the problem that we are running into, of course, is that you have these people on the Supreme Court where um, where there's not a lot of room for shifting our thinking about the law,
Mhm.
and um, and because of the way laws are made and the way things come to the Supreme Court, um, it used to be a very collegial body.
Right. Mhm.
And it's become more and more divisive, and I have heard justices talk about, how problematic that is.
Yeah.
And so I think thinking about adding more people, more seats to the Supreme Court is an interesting idea. I'm not, like, locked into any one thing, but I
Right.
do think we have to start exploring how we can make the court robust for the time that we are living in.
Right. Yeah, one of my favorite ideas is not only adding to it, but switching it into a rotating panel like most of the appellate courts work,
Mhm,
in
mhm,
the circuit level. So, you have a 3 judge and at the Supreme Court level, it'd probably be more than 3, but like,
right.
you know, 3, 5, whatever at a time, but the
Mhm,
panel itself is much larger and they
mhm,
rotate in and out. So it's a lot harder for an Alito or a Thomas or Kavanaugh or whatever to kind of hold,
yeah.
some kind of policy area hostage, knowing that every case would always run through their hands,
Mhm.
right?
And I think that creates this diversity of thinking that I'm talking about. Like, you
Right.
can't get into polarized politics because the court is not supposed to be doing those things,
Right.
right?
No.
It's supposed to be a diversity of thought to
Mhm.
help make our laws even more robust
Right.
for the whole of the people, not just the few.
Right. 100%. Amazing. All right. No, I do number 4 and 5 together because they're
Mhm,
very related. 4 is raises wages and reinstates corporate tax marginalization, and I insist that those are together because
mhm,
of how corporate tax law works right now. And number
yep.
5 increases tax marginalization for high net worth individuals. This is the tax the rich, but I'm definitely down to hear any nerdy thoughts about tax policy that you might have.
Well, so we have to raise the minimum wage.
Yes.
Um,
Right now.
and as part of that, one of the things that I used to teach my social work students is that we have not adjusted the federal poverty level, the FPL, for inflation or cost of living since 1978. So we can't just raise the minimum wage and think that's going to fix all of our problems. We have to adjust the FPL. And so that is something that I am deeply invested in because it actually will save federal tax dollars down the road if we actually change the FPL. And so the avoidance, of course, and the folks who oppose changing the FPL will say, "Oh my God, it'll cost us too much money." No, it won't, because if you raise the minimum wage and you also adjust the FPL, it actually becomes better for the economy because people are actually able to spend money and earn money so that they can put more money into the economy. So if we just those things together, that will work great. Our taxes are a mess. We absolutely should be taxing billionaires. The fact that we have this many billionaires to talk about
Mhm.
is actually pretty disturbing to me. I was having a really great conversation with uh Angelique. FPL is the federal poverty level,
Yes.
to answer your question. One of the things that I was talking to one of my best friends about this. Millionaires are actually really good for the economy because they have money to spend and they can put it back into the economy and make it recirculate.
Right.
Billionaires are really inflationary for the economy because they can never spend enough money. And
Exactly.
so we need to tax them to help our tax base. And also, millionaires also should be taxed at a certain level. And we need to stop taxing the poor.
Right.
I mean, it's just the my daughter's a server at a restaurant. Taxing her tips is
Right.
is it's terrible.
You mean
And
they didn't get rid of taxes on tips? 'Cause I thought that that was
I think they did, but, like, when that first came up, she and I were talking about that, and she's like,
right,
"Mom, what am I gonna do?" And I was like, "I don't know." Like, she still lives with us.
right,
So, she's 23 and still lives with us because she can't
yeah,
afford to be on her own because minimum wage is so low, even though it's higher here in Oregon.
right,
But, we've gotta look at this from a holistic community level.
right,
If we want people to be able to buy and sell goods, then we have to create an
right.
economy where that happens, and we do that by changing our tax structure, changing the FPL, and raising our minimum wage.
Yeah, and I was being silly about the no tax on tips. It's only over a certain threshold, and you
Yes.
have to itemize, and
Yes.
most tipped workers don't actually break the standard deduction
No.
ceiling.
No.
So, it is nonsense is what it is. It was
It's
something that
nonsense, and who expects a 21-year-old server at a bar to do those things?
right. Yeah, no.
No.
So thank you for that. That makes a lot of sense. And I'm glad that you addressed the federal poverty level because that I know there was this article that has, become contentious on Capitol Hill about how the federal poverty line is actually 130,000 for a family of four or something. And I'm like, I don't think it's that contentious to be honest, especially in certain cost of living areas. I do what is your take on, because there's the federal poverty level, and then, of course, there's the various, like, regions, and in your field of social work, you have the expertise on this. What is the best solution for addressing the fact that your COL could be drastically different, depending on where you live, and you would be making federal policy? So how would you tackle that particular issue?
Yeah, I think that this is a great question for many policies, right? Because what we do at the federal level is we have engaged in this top-down policy where we have come up with policy making and we make all these rules around it. This is what I think a lot of people don't understand about the federal government is we create policies and then there's the rulemaking process around all those policies. And we have to change the rulemaking process so that it adapts to cost of living depending on where people are. Because where I live in Corvallis is a very different city than Eugene, Oregon, and then
Mhm.
the coast. The coast is mostly rural, right? And so we also have to adapt policy and rulemaking for region, right? And that actually is going to save taxpayer dollars in the long run. Like this is the thing I keep trying to explain to people is if we start to look at this as um we have an idea for a policy at the federal level and when we do the rulemaking and the grant making to get that money in the hands of people, I'm thinking of when we do like when we look at housing and we do community development block grants, what someone needs for a community development block grant in Eugene is not what somebody needs in Roseburg. And we have to be able to adjust for those things. We can't create these blanket rules that are supposed to adapt in Oregon and Texas and New York and, Colorado. Like we can't keep doing policy that way because it is a waste of taxpayer money. And
Right.
so we have to be willing to be a little more flexible in the rulemaking and the grant making process so that we aren't so rigid in how people can use federal dollars to actually improve community. And that means we're going to community first and asking community, you can tell I'm a social worker,
Yep.
asking
I
the
love it.
community, what do you need? So that we are able to give them what they need so that people can thrive and have a better life for everybody.
Yeah. As a fundraiser, I'm like, when you're talking about, uh, community block grants and community first, it just makes me so happy because as someone I've fundraised at the federal, state, and local
Mhm.
levels as far as like public fundraising, public institutions, and it can be incredibly frustrating as the higher up you get,
Yes.
especially to try to like speak your mission, your field, your whatever into this mess of policy. It is kind of a mess. And get that understanding of what's happening at a level where it's like I'm a regional organization right now. So like
Yeah.
I'm in this tiny little spot in Virginia, and trying to translate that to DC is like it's like playing a game of telephone across three football fields, right? Like
Mhm.
what the world. So I really appreciate your thoughtfulness on that. And when we get into when we talk about the administrative state, I'm pretty sure we'll have a lot to talk about even more. So I'm really excited to dig in now. But
Yeah.
before we go there, We have we have another trip through tax land, kind of tax fiscal policy. Number 6 bans stock buybacks.
Yes. Like like, no
Like right,
question.
like right now.
Like, I
Yeah,
actually
automatically.
posted a fairly snarky video because, the incumbent had violated the Stock Act 217 times. And I was like, "You don't have to worry about that with me because I don't have a stock to my name."
Right, yeah.
That was
Like
my
no.
snarky answer, but
Right,
and also, Congress should not be a route to becoming a millionaire.
right.
It is a body of the people, by the people, and for the people, and that means all the people, not the rich people.
Yeah.
Um, and so, yes, I mean, all the restrictions on stock anything.
Like every single restriction. Um, yeah, it's funny. I didn't explicitly name congressional trading, but which I should have. I should have put congressional trading in here as like a thing, but it's become like insane to me because I have problems with for anyone who's wondering, the stock buyback is where a company buys back its own stock to artificially inflate its price.
Yeah, sorry, I went on the tangent about
No, 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 but it's very related though to
Mhm,
congressional stock trading
mhm.
because the same, the reason that congressional members are loath to limit the buyback is because they are invested in said companies, and so they are happy to have those companies buy back their own stock. So they hold hands very well.
Yeah, sorry,
And
I didn't mean to
no,
go.
no, don't no, 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 don't apologize. Because no, because that gets to the deeper issue, and it's something like I've had people who are like, "Hey, I don't necessarily wanna ban the stock buyback, but I do wanna ban congressional involvement in the stock market or whatnot." And I kind of view it the other way of, like, get rid of the incentive really to be
Mhm.
playing that game, so but you can go both ways. You could like, I don't care how we attack this problem, like, pincer it and, like, get rid of it, but whatever we do to get like you said, Congress members out of the markets,
Well, I
because
think
it's
it's a
just
both and approach, right?
right.
Like, if
Mhm.
if you are inflating your stock and Congress is benefiting from you inflating your stock, then what came first, the chicken or the egg,
Right,
right? And so
exactly.
I think a lot of policy is actually a both and scenario. I think part of the problem, particularly in progressive democratic politics, is
Mhm.
we get rigid into this either or scenario, and that is just not how life is. Life is not an either or zero sum game scenario. Life is fluid and it is gray and it is messy,
Yeah,
and lawmaking is messy.
right.
It is one of the most beautiful processes. I love lawmaking. I
Me
geek
too.
out about
Like,
lawmaking. I
it's
think it's amazing. And
yeah.
also, I think that our like these conversations for people who don't most people don't understand the stock market. They don't understand what these things mean because they don't own stock, right? We were just talking about the average American worker only has like their amount in their retirement is like $955. I can't remember exactly what my campaign
Mhm.
manager was telling me. And I thought, oh my God, I would love to have $900 in a savings account somewhere. I don't have that. I
Right,
don't have retirement.
right,
And most people don't,
right.
right? Because they've had to use it for something,
Yep,
or something has happened, a crisis has happened, and they've had to
yep,
pull their retirement out to do
right,
something with it.
yeah. Or
And I
God
just think
forbid.
all of these things are woven together and interrelated, and that's what I want people to understand. I'm leading from this space of understanding of how all these things actually fit together because nothing is exclusive.
Yes, I love that. Yeah, nothing is siloed, really. It's all very, interwoven.
Yeah,
And I like, you're mentioning all, like, kind of the possibilities of why people do or do not have retirement. God forbid, they might have it, and then some billionaire jacks up the stock market because they have that ability. They're inflationary, as you said, and at the time that they're supposed to retire, it's all jacked up because the
yeah,
retirements are based on markets instead of on pension funds or something secured
yeah,
and government based, and it's a mess.
yeah.
So, it's all as you said, you're just saying,
It's a mess.
real messy.
But I really want to be in the mess.
Right, exactly. Well, and that's the thing is I definitely agree. As much as I've like, I've been covering the big beautiful bill last year and then all the appropriations process, and obviously the appropriations process has now entered into this horror story, horror film of the DHS appropriations in particular. So I have wanted to rip every strand of my hair out of my head for like a year now. And I am also fascinated when it works, and it's obviously not worked very well very many times at all in the last year, but when there's those moments of like, "Oh, some actual collaboration happened here." My jaw hit the frickin' floor when they said they were gonna split the DHS bill from the rest of the appropriations last week. I mean, I was like,
Yeah.
"How?" Like, it just or 2 I guess it was 2 weeks ago now. Like, it just felt like an actual miracle came out, and, so, obviously, we want more of that function happening, and obviously, we would like more function on the front end, so we're not getting to the dysfunctional part of a shutdown anyway, but that's a whole other thing.
That's a whole nother podcast.
Right, that's a whole yes, it's a whole other podcast. Number 7, speaking of a mess, invest in a robust, nimble, and strategic administrative state, and I am speaking to a doctor of social work, so I'm pretty sure like, we'll defer to the queen here for what needs to happen with an administrative state. So, what are your thoughts?
Oh, oftentimes when I think about these types of things, I think about our population and our land mass. So when we think about the administrative state and we start trying to come up with ideal policies that we adapt from other countries, for example,
Mhm,
when we look at administrative states and we try to think about how are we going to do this on this gigantic landmass scale, I wonder, um, I wonder what the questions are that we're not asking.
mhm,
And I've thought a lot about how to answer this question when you sent it, like when you gave it to me.
mhm,
And I honestly keep thinking, I'm not sure I have all the answers to this. And the reason I don't feel like I do is because we're talking about a federal administrative state with 50 other administrative states, with untold number of county administrative states, with untold number of city administrative states. And if I look just at this district alone, you're talking the state of the federal government, the state of Oregon, um, 6 different counties in my district, God knows how many cities and towns, right? And, um, and so I think as we think about reforming the administrative state and creating a robust administrative state that is better for all of us, I think we have to stop ignoring what's happening at a city, county, and state level when we
mhm,
think about the federal administrative state. And one of my dreams is I think other countries have really good ideas about how to make this happen. Um, and also, I think that there are some states that we could really learn from who are governing their administrative states are running really well for the majority of people. And
mhm.
we have to stop ignoring those things as we pull in resources to create an administrative state that actually works for the whole of the people.
Incredible. Do you have some specific examples of like state policy that you're like, there's some of the gold standards right there?
I'm going to do something that I'm sure a lot of people are going to get mad at me about, and that's cool. I grew up in Utah. Okay. I'm okay. No, I'm just kidding. I love Utah. I grew up in Utah as the lobbyist for Planned Parenthood of Utah. I had to fight at the Capitol a lot.
Mhm.
But Utah is one of the best managed states in the union.
Wow.
Uh, in 2008, when everyone else was in the red, Utah was not. And I don't love their social policies necessarily. But I will say that the way they run their fiscal operations is some of the best in the union. And I think we could learn from that when it comes to how we spend money. I mean, they're not awesome. I want to be really clear here. They're not like investing in a lot of things that I think are really important, but they still manage to listen At least they did when I was there. I don't know if it's
Mhm.
like that anymore so much, but because everything has become so polarized. But I think there are opportunities for us to look at how states are really doing fiscally and
Yeah.
figure out how to adapt that at a larger administrative level.
I love when I hear a candidate, anyone really, but a candidate in particular for this Congress that we're trying to fix, talk about, I can disagree with something ideologically, but look at the methodology and go, that is it. If I can just twist the methodology back on you, twist your sword back on you, we've got a winner, like, and I really, really, I'm like tearing up right now. I'm really, really appreciate somebody who is able to think that wide because we desperately need that as a
Mhm.
nation. If we cannot figure out how to, um, you mentioned some of the rigidity that we have in progressivism and that we have in extreme conservatism. In
Sure.
both
Yeah.
extremes, there's a lot of rigidity. And if we can figure out how to look at if someone is trying to give like a super nuanced approach or whatever of saying what you just said, I really despise the ideology over there, but the way they run that is like a fine-tuned machine, and I really just wanna rip the machine out from underneath that ideology and, put it to good use. If we can take the engine out of the Mercedes Benz and put it in the Honda Accord so that it's more, practical for the entirety of the union. So
But
bravo.
I
Really
think
love that.
I think what's really important for people to realize is that this this what is happening right now, it has to happen. A
Mm,
democracy that is built on genocide and slavery is not a democracy for everyone. It's
right.
only a democracy for certain people. And if we are going to allow ourselves to fluidly move through what is happening right now while we are fighting fascism and looking at what our communities deeply need, then we have to be willing to adapt systems that are actually working for people.
Mhm.
And some of those systems we might not even recognize as something that works for a lot of people. And so that's just how I lead. I lead, and if more, you want someone to vote for, you have to look at how this machine has been operating for this long.
Right.
Because I'll tell you, running in a Democratic primary as a Democrat primarying an incumbent Democrat is no small task. So, all of you pay attention to all of us who are running in Democratic primaries because
Right.
what we are seeing across the country is pretty amazing when it comes to those of us who are fighting up against this machine. And if you wonder why you don't have people on the ballot that you can vote for that inspire you, I can tell you it's because of this binary either or, you can only do Democrat or Republican, nothing else matters,
Right.
machine that we are fighting against.
Right.
And that, if we're going to shift the way the administration administers power, then we have to be willing to look at pull all sorts of different levers to change what's happening in this country. And what is happening is, at the same time, it is scary and terrifying, and
Mm.
also it is hopeful and
Yeah.
amazing. It is beautiful what is happening right now.
Right.
It's terrifying and
Mm.
scary, and what we are doing to other human beings is atrocious.
Right.
And also, this is creating an opening for all of us to engage. And we've never had a time like this. I don't remember ever there being a time like this in my lifetime, and I'm 51 years old.
Right. Yeah. No, agree. I, I that is, I think, the dichotomy that I feel like I wake up in every morning where I'm like, I'm about to go do some really cool shit.
Yeah,
And also I wish I wasn't having to do this because
yeah,
of the reasons, right?
yeah,
It's both and. Like I'm talking to people like yourself, like legal scholars, like policymakers and members of
yeah.
Congress right now, and it's fascinating,
Mhm.
and the reasons that I'm having to dig in like that are heartbreaking and
Yeah,
awful. So, yeah.
yeah.
No, but I love the fact that you're able to hold both and. You've
Mm,
mentioned the both and,
thank you.
the dichotomies, the whatever over and over and over again, and it's really helpful for these moments because otherwise we won't survive them. So,
Nope.
um Number 8, advances universal healthcare and education.
Absolutely. Like, hello. Like, Medicare for all is really important. I also had a really fascinating conversation, when I was down in Bandon this last weekend. I met with someone, a doctor. He's a doctor of physical therapy, and we had a really also a native man, really incredible. He was so cool. We had this really long conversation where I asked him, I was like, "Well, what do you think we need when it comes to healthcare, right? What do you think we need?" And he said, "Absolutely, we should have Medicare for all." And I was like, "Well, no kidding." And also, we had all these other conversations about what it would mean for, I mean, concierge services for rich people already exist. Like, the
Right,
concierge medical system is already there. Um, and so how are we thinking about making sure that we are all getting the care? And I have to tell you, when we really look at Medicare for all, we also have to look at, again, how are we looking at the system? I was listening to one of the hearings, congressional hearings from last week. I can't remember who the representative was that was talking to, I think it was United Healthcare, but I'm not 100% sure about that. So I could be
mhm.
misquoting myself. But one of the big healthcare,
One of the big ones. Yeah.
who they were like, "So you own the medical system?" Yep. "You own the insurance system?" Yep. "You own the prescription system?" Yep. "So you own all of these systems, which means you're just folding more and more money on top of yourself. And we have to stop that. We can't just do Medicare for all and say everybody's got insurance. Yay! We have to do Medicare for all, and
Right.
we have to look at how our health hospital systems are serving people in rural areas. That is the biggest concern of people in the rural parts of this district.
Right.
So this is again, we have to stop looking at our elected officials and our candidates and thinking that they have to have one right answer to a problem, because that is not where we live in 2026. We live in a place where we have to do Medicare for all, and we need to look at how insurers are using AI to deny people their benefits. AI should not be deciding whether or not I get a mammogram or a mastectomy or cancer treatment for uterine cancer. That is crap.
Right.
That is some BS that we have got to look at. So, absolutely Medicare for all. I don't remember what the second part of your question was, but, and,
Education.
oh, yeah. Okay, let's talk about education for just a second. Speaking of education, I have a teenager who's trying to be like, "Mom, can I go do this?"
Right,
While
yeah,
I'm
I
talking.
have.
Parenting. Um, Education. A couple things. I have taught every level. I skipped high school, but I have taught preschool all the way up to college, master's level students. Okay. I was in we used to call it a behavior disorder unit in an elementary school when I was getting my degree. I've worked with teenagers. Um, Teenagers are hard to work with. But I taught preschool for years. I've taught college. I've taught all these different levels, right? And um, there's a couple of things about our education. We student loan debt should not be like this. It wasn't like this when I was in college. There's just no reason for it other than, again, corporations driving up this cost, because universities have become ivory towers of corporations, right? And so we really need to be looking at how are we looking at student loan debt. How are we educating people in general? How are we making sure that community college is free? Like, how are we adapting so that community college is subsidized for people? How are we free preschool for everybody and paying preschool teachers a living wage? Because let me just say, I quit teaching preschool because I couldn't live on $7.22 an hour. Right? I couldn't it was my favorite. Oh my god, I loved my job so much. Besides my lobbyist job with Planned Parenthood, that was my favorite job. And our educators deserve way more when it comes to what they are getting paid. We have to address the student loan crisis. We have to. Um, and I'm living with someone, my oldest daughter just graduated from college, and also the way we treat our veterans when it comes to the GI Bill, we have
Mhm.
not adjusted the GI Bill.
Yeah.
And so my husband had to take out student loans to finish his degree because the GI Bill is time limited. They
Mhm.
promised my husband a free education, and it was not free by any extent of the imagination. So it's not just about dealing with student loan debt and taking away student loan debt. It's also looking, again, how are we looking at the
Mhm.
system of pushing people through a 4-year institution, which really takes 5, 6, or 7 years if you're a disabled veteran or anybody with disabilities? And how are we helping subsidize people's education so that they can become our best and brightest workers to go out into the world?
Right.
My younger 2 kids are in high school. One of them is not going to college. She's becoming a welder, actually. So, also, how are we invested in the trades? And how are we investing in helping people with disabilities get the kind of education that they want so that they can also work?
I am, like, so starry-eyed right now. It's like all the things that I think about of, like, we should have this and that and whatever. Yeah, it's, like, all just coming out of your mouth, and we did not rehearse this, y'all. So,
Nope.
I did not plant these things into Melissa's head. Melissa is the most overqualified candidate for Congress there ever was. Um Number 9, so that we can start to land this plane, especially to get to people. I think people are really excited based on what I'm seeing in the comments and the little hearts that keep coming up. So they want to support you. But I wanna get to this last one because I think it's very important. Commits to multilateral, non-interventionist foreign policy.
Oh, yeah. So, uh, yes.
Yeah.
Uh,
That's how I feel sometimes. I'm just like, "Okay, how long do we have here?"
it's been really interesting, particularly watching what's happening in the Middle East, especially with Israel and Gaza. Um, So my husband is a Cold War trained Army veteran who served in both Kosovo and Iraq. And we've had some really long talks about what's going on.
Yeah.
And I will be very candid that 2 years ago, my answer to this question would have been very different.
Mm,
And also, that is the beauty of time and listening and learning.
right.
Um, we should not be funding Israel. The Israeli state being able to commit such atrocious, horrific acts of genocide against the Palestinian people is a horror that that we have been perpetuating on Native people on this body of land for 500 years.
Right.
So it's not surprising that that is the policy of this country
Right.
because it's what we have always done to people here.
Right.
We, as a body, Congress absolutely must take back its war powers.
Yes.
We have to acknowledge that the United States of America is an imperialist democracy.
Mhm.
This is just what this country does.
Right.
And that is why we need more people in office, particularly more Indigenous people and people of color in office,
Mhm.
who can speak to these issues, not just from a policy standpoint, but from a personal standpoint.
Right.
Because this unilateral show of force, because Congress has not taken back the power to make war, is deeply, deeply problematic.
Yes.
One person should not be able to make the decisions to go after Venezuela, to attack Greenland, which, by the way, to all my white friends who are watching this, those are Indigenous people.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, thank you for saying that. I
And this is what's so important to me, Kate.
yeah.
This is what's so important. The reason we are attacking those two countries in particular is because of the minerals that are there that we need for AI,
Yes,
for AI data centers.
correct.
That is why we're doing this. And because they're Indigenous people. This is the same problem with ICE.
Right.
ICE has been doing what ICE is doing for 500 years. We have been practicing this on brown people for 500 years. And so we have to talk about not continuing to fund a genocide in the Middle East and also in Venezuela, in Greenland. Congress must take back its powers to make war.
Right.
It must.
Amen. Amen. When you said that, so many people have missed that part about Greenland, and it's so fascinating because even as of last year, Denmark was having to account for the way that they have done, like, literal, eugenics
Yes,
on Greenlanders.
on indigenous
Last year,
people.
2025.
I know.
Yeah, like, it's imperialism did not has not died, and it is
Oh God,
I think with ICE, what we're seeing is the sword being turned back on us, right? Like,
yeah,
now it's, us being, like, just the collective modern body.
yeah.
Like you said, it's like, before it was the INS, before it was something else, before that, it was just, like, our army,
Before that,
right?
it was the United States Army.
Right, yeah, exactly. So we've been doing this forever,
Hmm.
and it's time to reimagine. I've been talking a lot in the last couple days even, and it's been contentious and it's been a hard conversation, but about what does immigration look like moving forward? What does an immigration system,
Well, I'll
look
tell
like
you,
right
Kate,
now?
it looks like people not staying. This is not America.
Right. Yes. Please stop
Are
saying
you
that.
kidding?
Right. Yeah.
Yes, it
It
is.
it is.
It
It is.
so
Yeah.
is.
Right. And we've had moments, right? We've had, like, bright spots, and, like, I don't wanna diminish those things, because and what I like about them is that it tells us that, like, it's always been possible, right? It's always been possible to do
Yeah.
something different, but without a major force of will, like, it's just not going to become a policy, right?
Mm.
It'll always be an exception.
Yes.
I was speaking yesterday about, Frances Perkins,
Mhm,
and, FDR's labor secretary,
mhm.
very much pushing a progressive immigration agenda. And then
Yeah.
what happened? INS was taken away from her, put with the Department of Justice, and we got on the road to where we are today. So
Listen,
it's
we are
right.
moving the Bureau of Indian Education is
Mhm.
moving into the BIA and out of the Department of Ed.
Right.
Hello, boarding schools.
Right. Yes. Right. Yeah. Yes.
And
Um,
also, if people, this is, I'm just going to say this one more soapboxy thing and
yes.
then we'll move on because we do have to land the plane.
Right.
Um, please stop saying that, that, that everyone is an immigrant. I am not. Part
Right.
of my ancestry is, for sure. Part of my
Yes.
ancestry is because my mother's side of the family is, and part of even my dad's side of the family is.
Right.
Not everybody is an immigrant.
No.
And when we continue to perpetuate that mythology, we continue to ignore the fact that there were approximately 75 million
Right.
people on this land, and now there's 3.5.
Right. Because they're under the ground. So yeah. Um, I Melissa, I am so encouraged by this, and I'm basically like, we need to just make sure, everybody, that this woman gets to Congress. I don't know how else to say that, but please, like, make this. I can tell that you've got people in your district who are listening right now, and y'all need to make this happen. Please, I'm begging you, and I will do whatever I can to help. Um, Melissa, uh, to close out, please tell us where we can find you,
Mm,
what we need to do to support you,
mm.
and recap the election situation again before we
Yes.
finish.
So you can find me at online on my website at melissabird4 FOR congress.com. You can find me on all the social media platforms. And you can get there from my website. There's also a beautiful bright red donation button when you go to my website.
Click it.
So click the donate button and donate whatever meaningful contribution you can, um, from $5 all the way up to $3,500. Your donations do make a huge difference. They all go to our field. They all go to making sure that we are reaching voters. Our canvassing, our phone banking, our lit. Um, those things cost money and they're really, really important. So go ahead and smash that donate button. And also, please follow me on social media because also following me on social media means that I get bumped up in the algorithm. And so we're playing games with the algorithm all the time, as we all
Okay.
know. So please make sure that you're following me on all the social media platforms. Um, and then share what inspires you. I do a lot of videos and a lot of recording. And my favorite video, if you want to share it, there's two on my YouTube page. One is an interview with my high school history teacher where he talks about why he thinks I'd make an exceptional congresswoman. And the other one is my kickoff speech. My campaign kickoff speech is epic. Y'all should share all of that with the world. But I really want everyone to realize, and please volunteer. So don't just think you have to donate. Please sign up to volunteer. There's a volunteer link at the bottom right hand side of the website page that says volunteer. We need volunteers from all over, because y'all can phone bank. Um, but what I really want you to realize is that every little bit counts. So the biggest ask I have, especially for people who live in Curry County, Coos County, Douglas County, Lane County, Benton County, and Lincoln County, is I want y'all to say my name. Say my name to everyone. Have you heard about Melissa Bird? Do you know about Dr. Melissa Bird? Do you know about Melissa Bird? Melissa Bird is amazing.
Right.
Say my name at the grocery store, at the gas station, at the hotels, at the libraries, at the
Right.
coffee shops. Tell everybody that
Right.
I am running, because the more of you that do that, the more likely it is that I'm going to win, because people vote by name.
Yep.
And the word is the bird. The bird is the word.
Amazing. That's the perfect ending. Melissa, I am so excited for your candidacy. I will put all the dates to the election. Like you said, April 1st is when you have to register as a Democrat to be in the closed Democratic primary, which is going to be in May. And we need to get this lady through the primary and off to the November 3rd general election, where she will be victorious, I am sure. So, Melissa, thank you so much for joining me this evening. And everyone, have a great night. Look out for the links and the action items. We're going to get Melissa to Congress because she is the candidate of our dreams.
Thanks, Kate. Have a great night.
Yes. You too. Bye bye.
Bye.